back to part 2 of our 26th of February meeting. Thanks for the contributions in part 1, which were very well received. Right, we'll go straight on to the customer experience platform. This is an update, this one. So I'll hand over to Councillor Elliott. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, Jim. Item 6 is due to the present update.
No, we just checked it. The advice I had was not to do it. Happy to look at it again.
Chair, that was only on the last item if you wanted to look at the exempt appendix.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Elliott, thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much, Chair. Well, this update is on the customer experience platform. It sets out what I hope you'll find is a transparent and encouraging picture of progress. While the new platform's go-live date, as Corinne will explain in more detail, has moved from March to June, the programme does in fact remain on budget and continues to show substantial projected underspend. The level of financial and operational benefits do remain fully achievable, with the first savings already being delivered. So I trust that the Scrutiny Committee can be assured that the appropriate measures are in place to manage this revised timetable, whilst also maintaining quality and securing the long-term benefits of this transformational programme. With your permission, Chair, perhaps Corinne could expand on the report and answer any questions.
Absolutely. Thanks, Richard. Thank you, Corinne. Good to see you. Yeah, please do. Are you happy to speak through and stop and start for questions? Or yeah, we normally do that with these sort of items. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have too much to add to Councillor Elliott's introduction, maybe just to delve a little bit more into that revised timeline that you see in front of you. So you'll note in the original business case, we had a 2-year implementation timescale. We are still within that 2-year implementation timescale. So regardless of the 3-month delay, so the movement of the original March go-live date to the June go-live date in terms of the whole project, we are still within that implementation window. So the important point to note there is at this point we are not predicting any impact on the benefits realisation. In fact, referring to what Councillor Elliott referenced earlier, we are ahead with the reduction of a post in relation to the benefits realisation set out in the business case. In terms of the timeline itself and why that has been revised, so when we originally set out the timeline as part of project initiation with the supplier, it was supplier's informed guess alongside our informed guess, it being a new platform, something we've never developed in before, and without having the detail around the processes and the requirements of those processes, it is always very hard to get a very accurate picture at that point. Sometimes it takes the need to be able to develop some of those processes and then extrapolate that effort into the complexity of the processes that are yet still to be built. So that's the work that has been ongoing with the supplier to date. So the new timeline and that 3-month shift now accounts for sort of, I guess, three key aspects that we have learned and applied. So the first being the complexity in some of the build processes. So we know some of our processes are slightly more complex to build than others. So we have enabled a little bit more time in the build processes against the estimated complex processes. We have also allowed a little bit more time for user acceptance testing. What we found through the first set of development and iteration was that there was quite a bit of back and forth between when the users picked up some issues through testing and the supplier fixing those issues and then coming back for the second round of testing. So we've elongated that aspect of some of our processes to allow for that time. We have also had quality acceptance challenges with our supplier. So in the scenario where securing resource on their side to do quality acceptance testing has had a bit of a shift. So we have had those conversations with the supplier and re-baselined that within the 3-month March go-live date and the delay that we're anticipating there. In terms of where we're at now, so this report was written in December. We're obviously quite a way on from that. So the position now is the revised timeline is now on track against that March go live date. We are watching some risks associated to supply resource, but confident that we have strong contractual clauses in our contract that make sure we can continue and have some fallbacks in that position should we need to have the conversations with supplier around resource and allocation of resource. So I'll pause there and open to questions, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent, thank you. Yeah, any points or questions from the committee? Yeah, still got something. Thanks, Councillor Rosen.
Sorry, I might have misheard that. Are you saying that this report says you want to move the end of to June, but actually you're still going to manage March? Is that right? Yeah. Is that what you just said?
Okay.
No, so the report highlights a shift from March to end of June, so a 3-month delay on the original timeline.
Okay, Councillor Webber.
Thanks for that clarification. I mean, what's the level of risk around in June, and you know, if there was any further delay, what would be your sort of maximum estimate?
Yes, good one, thank you.
Yeah, so at the moment, we have built a bit of contingency around about 2 weeks within the timeline to account for any bigger challenges that may come out of final end-to-end testing. So the hope is with that contingency, that will be enough to meet the June deadline. However, as we always do as part of a project team, where we have the conversations with supplier on a weekly basis and risks are occurring, we look to see how we can mitigate. And so for example, the recent risk that we have had is within my account. So we think the delivery of my account may take slightly longer than we had in the timeline. So we're having conversations around, actually, could you go live with a slightly stripped back scope that still allows you to meet that go live date, but the functionality may be added a week or two after. So we continually have those conversations and we continually contingency plan as part of that. However, at this point, we have had the conversations with the supplier and they're comfortable that our go live date is still achievable for the June deadline.
Okay, Jim. Any further questions? Did you have more? I'm sorry, please do, Terry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more an observation, I suppose. Within the total budget, I assume that a large proportion of that is now spent. And I only ask that question because with local government reorganisation on the horizon, no pun intended, by the way, you know, how does this fit in with any of the, and it's an impossible question to answer actually, within the possible unitary solutions that come along? You know, in other words, are we going down a process of throwing money away potentially, or producing an outcome which would logically fit in with the various options of local government reorganisation?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I guess a fundamental question on any of the investments that the council makes going forward. But we did, in the early days before we signed the contracts, we completed an options appraisal when we thought that LGR it was on the horizon. And there was a couple of things that I guess as conclusions we drew from that options appraisal. And one of those was that actually implementation of the customer experience platform reduces the risk during LGR and avoids further costs. So if we did nothing, there is still a cost to doing nothing. So your customer demand will increase. It just means instead of putting the cost into your technology investment, you're putting that cost into staff. So having to employ more staff to service that demand. We also then looked at what other authorities had in place, and in terms of the customer experience platform technology, other authorities have the customer experience platform technology in place, some of them with the same supplier that we have gone with and others without. So I think continuing with the project puts us in a stable footing, whatever the new authority looks like. And it's something that if we did nothing, it would still have a cost. It's just a different type of cost.
Thanks, John. Okay, that time. Anyone else got any questions or points? Jim.
Can I just ask about the cost savings? You talk about one being reflected in next year's budget. Are the others also developers, or which function are they, and how's the saving per FTE going to compare to the first one?
Thank you.
So the savings were made up of 2 types of staff, if you like. The first being the developer role, and that was just 1, so we'd have realised that saving. And then the other 13 were made up of administrative customer-facing roles. So currently we have a separate project that runs alongside this, which is changing our customer experience model. So bringing the contact centres out of siloed back office into one central coordinated contact centre. That is still on timeline. We have done the first phase of that now. Committee will be aware that we have taken the approach to fill vacancies that come up with fixed term contracts in line with the delivery of the customer experience platform. So the release of those savings will come from fixed term contracts as opposed to permanent employees.
Okay, Jim? Yeah, please do.
On the same subject of savings, and maybe this is best directed at Councillor Elliott, I noticed that in the medium-term financial forecast that was recently considered, the savings anticipated seem to be rather less than is included in your plan. Is there a reason for that?
Off the top of my head, Chair, I'm afraid I don't have that information, but I can certainly look into it. I don't recall that being the case, actually, but perhaps Corinne might clarify that, if that's okay, Chair.
Yeah, I can circulate a response to that, but my understanding is that they should be reflected in the medium-term financial plan.
Okay, are you happy with that, Jim?
Yeah, well, as soon as I'm going to get there.
So could that go to all the members of the scrutiny? Time on that? I mean, 5 working days, something, whatever's easier for you.
I'm on leave next week, so I'll get it done by the end of this week.
Okay, that's really helpful. Don't need a massive paper, but just a couple of points. Yeah, thank you.
Not particularly on that point, Chair, but maybe just to come back to an earlier point, I think most of the benefits will, of course, they're not going to be waiting until the end of June. The benefits that customers see will click in much earlier than that.
No, that's helpful. Okay, Corinne, have you got more to go through in terms of the report? Are you satisfied that you've walked us through the whole thing?
I think that's everything for me. Obviously, there's 2 appendices that set out a little bit more detail around the timeline and risks, if there's any questions on those.
Okay, any questions or points from, I mean, it's a straightforward one, this, but we're really grateful to you for coming in and talking us through it. Are we all content? Okay, in that case, the recommendation, again, a straightforward one, is to note the position of the customer experience platform, which has been explained to us really helpfully, I think. So show of hands on that. Brilliant, thank you very much. Thanks, Richard, as well, and Corinne. Scrutiny work programme, no updates or changes or anything from when we looked at that last time, did we say?
There are a number of updates which you can see in there. I've just added the annual reports that you would expect to see. We're just awaiting for the work programme dates to be agreed, but nothing further to add, Chair.
No, that's fine. Okay, in that case, with your consent, I'll bring the meeting to a close and thank